Hi there, this is Sheila Kennedy of the Zebra Inc., and I am here for the next episode of Meet the Author interview, or showcase, I guess we could call it. Today, I am interviewing somebody who is incredibly inspiring. I read this book and I was floored by how much he has been able to accomplish in his life, but with such humility, it is amazing. And somebody that I'm really excited about you getting to know today. And his name is Brett Sobieraski, and he has written a book called Gray Man. And I am going to not tell you any more about it because Brett tells it best. Welcome, Brett.
Hi, how are you this morning, Sheila?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Life is great.
That's awesome. So, Brett, you have recently released your book, and it is a memoir, but tell us a little bit about show us what the book looks like and tell us a little bit about why you wrote this book.
So this is the book here.
Yay! I love it. It looks amazing. Awesome.
I love the cover of it. And, it's my memoir. And it's, the first book I've ever written. And it's really about how a very average man was able, it speaks of his transformation to something greater. And I knew at a very early age that I was never going to be a great athlete. I wasn't going to set world records. I wasn't going to go to the Olympics. I wasn't going to be a professional athlete. But it talks about once I got past that and stopped comparing myself to other people. And along with it, what the book really is a series of perfect storms that came in my life at the right time. And I took advantage of those, very average, to something greater. And what that was personal greatness. And it just speaks about my journey along the way. And, with that came some setbacks, which always is going to happen with, very meaningful goals. Sure. But I used basically extreme sports was my medium, like in my life for this, along with other things. And it was that journey that was just fantastic journey. I'm still on it. I'm about halfway through actually. So.
That's awesome. Well, and I think that, you are, like I said, you are very, very humble and, very much, I don't know that you appreciate that extreme sports is something very few people can do or would want to do. And the motivation that you have to continually do more and be more. And I think that you need to share I want everybody to read the book, but just share like a couple of the accomplishments that you have been able to accomplish, if you will, or achieve in the past couple of years. I mean, you've done some really fantastic things, and just give us a little glimpse. You don't have to give us the details, just, some of them.
Sure. So I ultimately got into ultra marathon running. Mm-hmm. And so I 100-mile races, which to me, again, at the beginning, I was like, oh gosh, like there's no way I could run miles, like ridiculous. And the very good part was, as I got into these journeys, I started raising money for great organizations. Because I knew I would grow personally during these challenges, but I was like, other people should also like reap some benefits. So started raising money for Special Olympics, New York, Veterans Outreach Center, some police officers that did, help. Yeah. So then these things started steamrolling. Before I knew it, I nonstop across Lake Ontario, which is basically in my backyard. I swam 32 miles and it took me almost a full day of swimming. And most of these, do start off as very poor ideas and then manifest into like great adventures. I ran 50 hours straight, basically from Buffalo to Syracuse for Special Olympics. It was their 50th anniversary. So I ran 76 miles. Things of that. I ran across and back the Grand Canyon, which was just incredible. Mm. And I ran through Death Valley, 100 miles through the hottest place on earth, which again was just great adventures that I talk about in this book. And
That is definitely one way to put it. A great adventure. A great adventure that I'm glad you did. I don't know that I would want to do that. I don't know if I'd want to do it in my car, let alone on my feet. But
are very mad at me most of the time.
yeah,
But I don't have a lot of spare times, and my feet they often get upset with me. But we're coming to.
I can understand that. I can understand that. Okay, so Brett, your book recently came out, and I know, you wrote this book so that you could show people that anybody can find their definition of personal greatness. That even if you are feeling, average, not all that, all of those kinds of things, that there is something in your life that you could actually, find greatness in and let it go from there. But I'm guessing that you had some really good feedback so far from your book. And I was wondering if there's something that really meant something to you that you could share with us, that helps you see that you achieved that goal when you wrote the book.
Yes, what I really wanted to do was I wrote it from my heart, obviously, and I wanted to touch people in a way. I wanted to feel what I felt, good or bad. And so there's this guy who's going through chemotherapy sessions. He basically has a type of rare blood cancer, and he has to go get monthly treatments. And he, after he had stem cell, so he was he took my book to his and he wrote this. He says, "Well, over, and I'm enjoying the book. You could have given me a heads up that I may want to read this in private. I both cried and physically laughed behind my mask during the session. Great job so far. I can't wait to get back to reading it." And I was like, it was awesome that I could touch him like that. And the other one that was really important is a lady. She read my book and she said, "I just figured you were always great at swimming and running and biking. I didn't realize where you started from. You know what? I'm not going to put off running this 5K coming up because I don't feel I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm still going to go out and try it anyway." So I think those two were just like, it made my whole year, actually.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I totally get that. Like I've had those moments, when I have been reading the book and I'm like, okay, why aren't you going to do this thing that you have been putting off for a million years? Like, why are we waiting? And why aren't we going to do it? And if Brett can do these amazing things, like you can climb the stairs, like whatever the thing is. So I certainly appreciate that for sure. Brett, if there was something, one thing about the book that you would want your readers to know, or your future readers to know, what would it be?
I think it's that, people have to understand that true meaningful change never happens overnight and is very incremental. And when setbacks come, and they will, if your goal is very meaningful. So meaningful means hard. So when you have hard goals and you have some setbacks, that just reaffirms. They're hard pills to swallow, but it reaffirms that what you're doing is difficult. And when you come out the other side of it, just that much more meaningful. So I think sometimes we turn into a society of instant gratification nowadays. And meaningful change is, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of determination, a lot of stick to itness. And it's not going to always be easy. So we all have to hang in there, and keep fighting for that goal, because it will come. When it comes, you'll see things with a new lens, like I had over all these little transformations I had. So change is never in a straight line. It's never straight up. It's it's gonna be these dips with these setbacks, and climb out of that hole and get back after it.
Yeah, great share. I love that. Tell us about, and I'm not really sure how you're going to answer this question, because I'm not sure if it's going to be like the treadmill or something else more fun. What is your favorite way to spend time when you're not writing?
Oh, I live in a great area where I have Lake Ontario in my backyard, and I love swimming in that lake. love the vastness of it. I don't venture far from shore, but I love feeling I love feeling the vast. So when I went to the Grand Canyon or when I went to Death Valley, and it makes you feel very small and like insignificant, because often we think like we are the center of this universe that we live in. And then you go to these great places. Oh gosh, no, I'm not. Like I'm just a little speck, in a little ripple in this. But I like traveling. I was in South Africa earlier this year. Last year, I lived in a tent by myself in the high mountains of Colorado for 9 days, which was very spiritual, like really connecting with nature. So I'm really getting, and I being outside, like especially with the winters we have up here, I'm a fan of winters. And so once springtime comes, the more I can be out back, and I call myself a gentleman farmer because I have, quite a bit of land that always needs mowing out back, and I plant crops. But I just love like the sun on my face.
Love that. I love that. That's awesome. I'm going to ask you this question afterwards. I have one more question that I wanted to ask you. Tell me about, at the Zebra Inc., a lot of why I do what I do is to help people tell their stories of how they made courageous decisions or decisions that left them empowered. Because that's kind of where I started. It was just, okay, today I have to make a decision that's hard. But I felt so much more powerful after I did that. So I was wondering if you could share with us one of your stripes of power decisions and that kind of left you feeling more empowered and courageous and brave and all of those good things.
It was a decision that, that I had put myself in that downward spiral. And quite honestly, I talk about in the book is when I quit smoking. When I quit smoking, this book doesn't happen. My life that I know now, that I have lived for the last 20 years after I quit, never happens if I addiction that I had. And you don't know, you really don't know you're in the throes of addiction until you're out of it and you realize that, gosh, like I stood in like freezing rain outside to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Or, my revolved around the next cigarette I was going to smoke. And that decision was, I've tried in the past because people wanted me to quit, and people dangle carrots in front of me, and I didn't want that for myself. And then time when I saw my youngest son at the kitchen table pretending to smoke a pretzel rod, and I quit that night.
Yeah.
And after that, like I felt so, the first couple of weeks of, really knocking those cravings down and wanting to be a better father, a better role model. And really everything from that day, that night that I quit, my life took a totally different trajectory that I would not have been on if that did not happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. Thank you for sharing it with us. So Brett, if somebody wanted to connect with you and find out more about what makes you tick, or if you have any other inspiring stories that they can be motivated by, how can they connect with you? What's your favorite way to connect with people?
The best would probably be on Facebook under my name, or Instagram under my name, because I post my adventures on there, and most times I post because of they usually have to do with fundraisers, so it generates fundraising for the whatever organization. And that's where I kind of decided to write this book. Was I would do these posts and I would talk very intimately about how I felt, what I went through, and people would say, gosh, you should write a book about that. Like that'd be really cool. Like I ventures in Colorado, and I would tell them day by day, and people would in between, and people would be like, oh gosh, I couldn't wait for the next day to come and see what you did, and like what it was like, what the weather you had, and what adversity. And it was really, that was kind of the impediment for me to write it. And the other one is I have a website now, which is Grayman Inc., like incorporated, graymaninc.com. And people want questions, there's a form for that, and connect with me that way. So any of those, either Instagram or graymaninc.com.
Love it. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Brett, I have so enjoyed our time together. Is there any parting words that you have for the audience today?
No, I have this that, most are great people. Like we fall into the middle of that bell curve. We're at, but it by no means does that not mean that you can experience personal greatness. And whether that's in your family life, in your, say, a new career or a new direction in your working life, or secondary education, whatever that is, like if you put in your hard work and your time, like you will experience personal greatness. It's possible for everyone.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. I appreciate it. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Brett, for being here with us and sharing all that you have. And y'all, go out and grab this book. You will be inspired. There's no way you can't be, and it will impact your personal life, I promise you. Thanks again, and I will see you again soon for the next episode of Meet the Author Showcase. Bye for now.